Weather Service. This is Jonathan Blaze with the weekly weather briefing for Central North Carolina for the next 7 days, extending out through September 21st. The weather pattern for the next week or so is pretty quiet. We have high pressure that's building into our region today. We do expect a weak front to move across the area from Virginia to North Carolina late tonight and more likely tomorrow. That could bring a few patchy clouds, maybe a little fog or something, but nothing consequential. Then high pressure returns and extends into the area behind that system, both for Saturday and Sunday and into early next week. And that area of high pressure really just kind of lingers across the Carolinas and mid-Atlantic through much of that time period. At the same time, though, however, there'll be a frontal system pinned up and stationary just off the coast, and a upper level trough out there as well. So we'll be kind of in a region just west of some unsettled weather near and off the eastern United States coast. But for us, should feature lots of sunshine, fairly quiet weather, and temperatures which are ranging right around normal today, with highs typically within a few degrees of 80 and lows within a few degrees of 60 or so. Those temperatures will gradually moderate through the weekend and will range maybe about 5 degrees above normal this weekend. And then by early next week, we'll actually warm up considerably above normal, maybe about 10 degrees above normal. And so we'll have highs in the upper 80s, even around 90 in a few of the warmer spots. And while not on the map you see on the screen right now, we will be watching what is now Tropical Storm Fiona, which is out in the Atlantic just east of the Windward Islands, as that will be a weather feature to monitor, and more on that in just a moment. Looking at our precipitation forecast over the next 5 days or so, you'll see that over North Carolina, very little shading at all. No real precipitation is expected in central parts of the state. There could be a few showers hemmed up along the coast, perhaps on Saturday, and then again maybe early next week. But for most of us, dry weather with the bulk of the precipitation just about all offshore. So that's good news if you are looking for dry weather. In terms of excessive rainfall, with dry weather, we do not expect any flash flooding. And in addition, we don't expect any thunderstorms in our area except for the immediate coastal area maybe this weekend. And again, that will be right along the coast and just offshore. So for our area, no severe thunderstorms are expected at this time. The only tropical system in the Atlantic that's being looked at is Fiona, and you can see it on your screen here on the left-hand side. It is well east of the Windward and Leeward Islands. It's been moving pretty steadily off to the west and west-northwest for the past day or so. That system from the Hurricane Center forecast is expected to continue to move west, likely beginning to influence the Windward Islands late tomorrow and tomorrow night. At this point, the system is likely still to be a tropical storm, although there is some potential for further strengthening into a hurricane near and just after that time period. But that westward track is a lot of confidence that will continue really for the next couple days. What is a little bit uncertain is the actual intensity of the system. Right now, the system is not terribly well structured. A lot of the showers and thunderstorms are east of the center, and it's fighting a little bit of wind shear and dry air. So the structure itself is kind of weak, and that actually impacts the forecast of the motion of the storm and its track. So there is some uncertainty, especially as we head into latter days really this weekend into early next week. If we look at the next slide, it actually shows a little bit of that. This is an indication of forecast tracks by a variety of model systems. And essentially the individual lines on here are individual model runs. The shading here shows kind of a correlation or the density of those tracks. And you'll see a lot of confidence here for the next couple of days that the system will move toward the Leeward Islands. After that, the options become quite large, with a cluster of options keeping the system well off the coast. Other simulations may be perhaps moving along the Caribbean islands in Cuba and Hispaniola, and others perhaps suggesting maybe into the Gulf of Mexico. So the message here is it's still too early to say with a lot of confidence at all really what the system track will be. A couple things to keep in mind. The storm system intensity will actually have a big impact on its eventual track. So the stronger the storm is, it is likely to take a more northward track and perhaps this curvature route you might see on the screen here. If it's a weaker storm track, it is likely to take a more westward track across the islands and perhaps into the Gulf of Mexico. Regardless, it would likely, if it were to be a threat to the southeast coast or get closer, this would likely be somewhere on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday time period of next week. So lots of time to monitor that. And that's really the big weather story, I guess, if we had to talk about for the next week or so. Looking beyond that, the 8 to 14 day outlook, which takes us really up until the end of the month of September on the 28th, shows temperatures are likely to be above normal across much of the region, and precipitation is likely to be near or perhaps below normal. This shading of near normal along the coast, I would imagine, is somewhat a result of Fiona and uncertainty whether that system would actually impact our area. If there was Fiona was not out there, I would imagine that we'd have a below normal type outlook for our area for this time period. And looking at the drought outlook, which just was published officially today, the areas of abnormally dry conditions across central North Carolina have been diminished, especially kind of in the eastern Piedmont and parts of the southern coastal plain, Raleigh, Smithfield, Goldsboro, those areas, as we had some significant rainfall in much of the area during a few days last week, including more than 4 inches of rain that occurred in Johnston, Harnett, and Cumberland counties. But with the dry weather expected for the next week, you know, the dryness that we already experienced is a little bit of a concern, and we'll continue to monitor that. In terms of the weather summary for the week, quiet and dry weather really expected through the period. The next chance of rain really is dependent on Fiona, to be honest with you. If that does not impact us, then we're quite likely going to be dry really for the next 7 days. There's a warming trend with temperatures becoming well above normal by early next week. Passing weather system both on Friday and again late Tuesday and Wednesday may bring a few clouds, but and a little bit of increased moisture, but otherwise dry conditions. We'll be monitoring Fiona during the upcoming week, and there's going to be an increased rip current threat along the beaches. It's still a little early at this point for those rip currents to be impacting the area from Fiona, but certainly early next week, I would imagine that would be a greater concern. And the Raleigh forecast for the next handful of days is shown on the screen as well. We don't see a forecast like this in this part of the world too often, which is clear skies and sunny days, clear nights, and fairly mild temperatures. So that is a little bit unusual there. With that, I'm going to pause the recording and thank everyone for joining us.